Welcome to Ike's Flame. Join us on another Star Wars adventure. Punch it, Chewie. Alrighty, hello everyone. We are back with you today for another episode, and super excited. We have a guest on today, and she may be familiar. We've had her on before, and it's just been a little bit of a while. And so we have Tiara from Crafting on Ilum. How are you doing, Tiara?
I'm good. Thank you for having me
Yeah.
back for the third time, I believe.
Is this third time? Okay, I know it's been a couple. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so we're just gonna chat Star Wars, kind of some random things today. Nothing too in particular, but we may get into a little bit of Bad Batch later, especially into Bad Batch, and dive into that. And we will also just catch up. Like I said, we haven't chatted for a little bit, so just even some of what TR is doing with her design stuff and anything she's working on. We'll dive into that a little bit as well. I think first off, let's just dive in. Like, what have you been working on? What anything exciting in particular, or things of that nature for like what you've been doing on your shops and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have a lot going on, but also at the same time a little bit because just life gets in the way.
Yeah.
Um, so I just went to MegaCon at the beginning of February, went to the convention. I saw the Hayden and Ewan panel. That was really, really cool because I waited
Awesome.
for like 4 to 6 hours because I didn't have a ticket. So I just
Okay.
like stood in the general area to make sure I got in, and I was like the ninth or tenth person. So that was really, really
Awesome.
fun. I was exhausted by the end of the day, but it was definitely worth it.
Yeah.
And for that convention, I worked on my second sister slash Trilla Siduri
Yeah.
costume. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but yeah. So we did a little bit of sanding and painting for like her shoulder pads. Got her helmet, fixed up her cape a little bit. So
Hmm.
did a little bit of work on that. And
Yeah.
then I also debuted my Ahsoka Tales of the Jedi one because I finally got like an actual like tendril headset.
Yeah.
That was really,
Yeah.
really cool to walk around with, take photos with. And then in terms of my shop, I haven't really been doing too much of like design wise,
Okay.
just because I've been so focused on cosplay, and
Yeah.
cosplay can
Yeah.
take a lot of time to like
Yeah.
sew, things like
Yeah.
that. So I
Okay.
have been reposting just like older designs, like my Doom the Wolf,
Yeah.
Lethal Wolf design,
Yeah.
maybe some of my Ahsoka stuff. I am working on Lethal cats, but Lethal cats in the form of the Ghost Crew. So like Zeb is a Lethal cat, but you can like clearly tell that he's a Lethal
Okay.
cat. And vice versa for all of them. So I
Okay.
have Kanan that I'm working on, and Hera is in the works as well. So once I finish those two, we're going to be posting them all for like stickers and like put on shirts. So
Yeah.
that'll be really fun to see.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen some of you were doing some of the second sister. I know I've seen you post some on that.
Yeah.
And then also your so the Tales of the Jedi Ahsoka that's when she's on. Is it Batu? Is that right?
When she's on the farm, I don't know
I
the
feel like it's
planet if it's
Batu, but I don't know
Batu.
what it is off the top of my head. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a farm-esque like
Yeah.
area or
Yeah.
planet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
She's
she's
kind
there.
of gone and done her own thing, and
Mhm.
um, yeah, Tales of the Jedi, or I'd even say like the Ahsoka novel by E.K. Johnston, that sort of that same time
Mhm.
frame there. I know there's
Yeah.
overlaps, so yeah, awesome. Yeah, and I think I always find that Ahsoka interesting. Your cosplay on that was great, but
Thank you.
the just because it's kind of weird to see Ahsoka in like overalls and
Mm.
like just not what we're used to for Ahsoka. And
Yeah.
so it's a different one, but it's fun. I love it. I love that setup and things. So yeah, so you've been diving in. Sounds like a lot more to cosplay,
Yeah.
and doing that. Can you? I mean, because I think that's one thing. And I've had a couple other cosplayers on recently, and we've
Mhm.
just talked, but like about like how you like all the things that go into it. I think if you don't cosplay, um, that, and I feel like I've learned a lot even of like there's just a lot of work that goes into making cosplays, making that happen, and all that. So like, can you just share a little bit like what all have you had to do? I know you mentioned some sewing. I know sometimes it's hard to get the specific, like especially if you're ordering something. I know like I imagine like the second sister helmet might have been interesting. So yeah, can you just kind of like what all have you had to do in
Yeah.
order or like figure out and things like that with cosplay?
Yeah. So a lot of the beginnings of my like cosplay journey was mostly just like piecing together things on Amazon. Like I had a Count Dooku cosplay and like I got a wig from Amazon
Yeah,
and I went to the thrift store and I got like a gi, but it was like kid size and so
yeah.
I just made that work and then I got some fabric and a cape and I went online and like purchased I forget what they're called, but it's like the chain that he has that goes
Oh
across.
yeah, yeah,
And it wasn't his exact chain. Like I didn't type in Count Dooku like cape chain
yeah,
or whatever. I
yeah,
just found something similar to it, and
yeah,
it looked really close to it. So
yeah.
a lot of it has just been piecing stuff together. But as I continued, I just really wanted my own original character for like a Jedi, and
Yeah.
so. I literally went to Walmart one day and I saw these like tablecloth pieces. They're actual tablecloth pieces,
Okay.
and I
Yeah.
picked them out and I was like, you know what, I could probably do something with this. So I like shredded some of the like they were napkins, they were tablecloths and table napkins, and I just
Mm,
shredded the pieces of cloth and literally like sewed it onto my arm, like wrapped it
okay.
around my arm, and then like took
Yeah.
a sewing needle and just put them together. And I don't have a sewing machine, so a lot of the stuff that I do is like
Mm,
hand sewn, which involves a
yeah.
lot of time and
Yeah.
effort and lots of poking. Um, so it definitely takes a lot of time to
Yeah.
do that. But when I finished my Jedi cosplay, that was such a good like feeling after like the reward, like the hard work
Mm,
that was put into it. That was just really cool to
yeah.
wear to MegaCon because I did wear it and I've been able to wear it around Galaxy's Edge in Batu East. So that's been really fun to be able to
Yeah.
do too. And
Yeah.
then for Trilla, I had bought like just a costume off of I think it's called Cost Guy originally, but then I lost the shirt and her costume, at least for me, the boots are from Amazon. I just like because I'm really short, so and Trilla is like fairly tall, so I wanted to
Okay.
make sure I had a little bit of height. So I just
Yeah.
found some like really like big
Yeah.
platform boots to just kind
Okay.
of look
Yeah.
intimidating. And
Yeah.
then the leggings, I was at Marshall's one day and I saw it and like they're like leather and they have like a little bit of texture on the thigh portion and they
Okay.
also have pockets. Like they have zippers, but you can't tell that they're like
Okay.
actual pockets. So
Yeah.
that's important when you're walking around conventions because like you want to put your cards in it and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then the shirt I had to just buy off of like Cost Guy again, but I think I got Cal's Inquisitor version. Like if you've played Fallen Order,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
has like the
Yeah.
different outfits that you can unlock, and one of
Okay.
them is
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Inquisitor one. So I
Yeah.
just used that shirt, but I definitely have to fix that because hers is a little different. Like it elongates towards her thighs.
Yeah. Yeah.
The cape again was from Costco, but I hated the shoulder pads. It was just like this flimsy piece of plastic that kind of just like hung there.
Okay.
So um, I was talking with a couple of my friends and I got sent some like 3D printed pieces, but I had to sand them myself. Like I had to sand them, put wood filler, sand them again, and then put the paint and primer on. So then I took off the pieces and then just kind of velcroed them to my shoulder. And the same thing with the helmet. I had a friend just like really know that I really wanted to do this cosplay, and the helmet's
Mm,
actually from Amazon. It was like 110, I think. So
okay.
isn't that bad for how it looks? Because I
Yeah.
think it's like pretty nice quality, but I definitely want to eventually get like a mic that goes in it so I can sound like the second sister, and then maybe
Yeah.
LED lights.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
visor so it glows. So it's
Yeah.
still a work in progress, but I think what I have right now is fairly decent.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of that like, oh, hey, buddy. Yes, my dog is joining us today. Yeah. So I think, no, I think that's so cool, and I think also, like you said, like as I've talked to different cosplayers, it's kind of sounds like, hey, you put something together, and then there's always like kind of upgrades or little things you want to do to
Yep.
make it a little bit better, or just add the small pieces. So yeah, definitely. So just because I'm trying to rack my brain right now, just so can you remind me where all do we see the second sister? In like
Yeah.
movies. I mean, I don't know if they're movies, but in do we see her in Fallen Order? Is that one
Fallen Order,
place?
yeah. She's an Inquisitor. She's the second sister, and she is like tracking down Cal.
Okay.
He is the Padawan of someone that Cal meets, that ends up being Cal's mentor. We
Okay.
see her at the very beginning, when Cal is with his like friend on that like mechanic like area ship.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can like play through her clips. And then we see her once or twice in the middle. She faces off with Cal, of course,
Yeah.
doesn't capture him, and then at the end, I won't spoil it if you haven't, played it
Yeah.
or seen it.
Yeah.
But we see her at the end, and like that's the kind of the final
Yeah.
countdown that we see
Yeah.
her in. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we see her a couple times. I thought her character was so cool. I thought
Mm,
she had like a really complex dynamic for
yeah.
just the game, that because that was like the first, not the first like Star Wars game, because I obviously play like Battlefront, I played
Yeah.
Republic Commando and like the pod racing game when
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
younger,
Yeah.
but like this was the first one that I had actually like I had like a storyline that I got into.
Yeah.
Um and I'm not like a huge video game player, but this one really like captivated me. So I spent all my free time playing it when
Yeah.
I found it out, because I found it when it was like 1 or 2 years old already. So I had no
Okay.
idea that it existed.
Yeah.
Um, living underneath a rock here. So when I played it, it was just it was really fun, and I really love her
Yeah.
character.
Yeah. Yeah. So we don't see her in Kenobi or anything like that, do we? Okay. I didn't
No.
think so. I wasn't 100% sure. And I think if you guys are into Fallen Order stuff, what's what they came out with that book that was between
Mm.
Fallen Order 1
Fallen
and
Order and
2.
Survivor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So like even like I thought that was really good because it had a lot of extra detail and it even got into Trilla's a little bit of Trilla's backstory, which I thought was really
Okay.
cool. So
Yeah.
so if you haven't read that, I'd recommend that. It was a fun read. But and so because she is Sears, for those of you guys that know Fallen Order and all that stuff,
Mhm.
she was Sears' apprentice
Yes. Yeah.
when she was a Jedi. So yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I was just trying to remember where that came from. Yeah, I think yeah, that's super cool to see. I think it'd just be fun to bring character to life. I've never gotten to the point where I'm going to do that, I don't think, but I love it. Love to see other people bring that character to life. And I got to backtrack real quick on to you mentioned you played a pod racing game. What pod racing game was this?
Um, Gosh, I mean, I have it on my Switch, so I don't remember like the original console. But it's a very, very old pod racing game. Like you're able
Yeah,
to see Anakin and Sebulba and
yeah,
that
yeah. It's
weird like
like
yellow alien thing with the the
yeah,
antennas. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Is it like what is it like Bombad pod racing or something like that?
I think it's just called the pod racing game. Like
Okay,
when
maybe it's
it was
something
up on
else because
my
I
system,
played something
thinking,
similar. I feel like it was on
yeah,
like when I was like young, like it was on like PlayStation 2 or 1 or something that
yeah,
I
yeah,
played.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't talked to very many people that played that, so that's why I was like, extra, we got to talk about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then something else I was gonna ask you related to all this. I just drew a blank. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's super cool, like cosplay and bringing all that together. And you also said you were doing a, I know you said you did Count Dooku, and then also you said you were doing kind of like an original Jedi character.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to talk a little bit more about
Sure, yeah, I have no problem.
that?
Yeah, so I mean, the original, I didn't have any like how you scroll on Pinterest and you're like,
Hmm.
this is like a really nice
Yeah,
aesthetic, or
yeah,
you see a character maybe passing around in the background of like
yeah.
maybe a movie or show, but I really didn't have. I feel like a lot of my cosplays, I don't have like a general idea of what I'm doing until I start
Hmm.
doing it. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that would be really cool if I tried to do this cosplay, and then
Hmm.
eventually I start finding more and more pieces. But with this one, I just wanted to do a Jedi cosplay, and
Yeah.
I had gone to the thrift store, something called like Plato's Closet,
Okay.
basically a thrift store, but I found this dress. And it's the whole piece. I don't have like leggings or pants or anything with this cosplay because the dress is fairly long, and
Okay.
then because they have like high-rise boots, you can't
Yeah,
see my
yeah,
legs
yeah.
at all, so it
Oh,
just seems like one whole piece.
yeah.
So I found this dress, and as soon as I saw that dress, I was like, this would be really like if I sewed these pieces on, it would be really, really cool as a
Mm,
Jedi cosplay. So it
yeah,
started with the dress. I then went to Walmart to get like fabric to put in like the V-neck line of it because they have like the layering of the tunic and then like the under tunic.
oh yeah, yeah,
Uh, so I went to originally go get pieces for that, and was having trouble finding the fabric section, so I just went through like all the aisles, and when I went through the aisles is when I saw the tablecloths, and I was like, this is a really
mm,
nice texture for like not bracers but just like armbands, and then
hmm,
I was thinking of Ray's, like how she has like the
yeah,
ripped up
yeah,
portion, and I thought it'd be really cool to like have a rustic feature like that. Um, and then the tablecloths, obviously, you need the tabards because they have most Jedi have like the two tabards that go
yeah,
across. They're
yeah,
crisscrossed or they're just kind of hanging there.
yeah,
Um, so the tablecloth pieces, I just saw it for that, and the brown colors just kind of meshed well when I saw it, and I thought it was very not like old Republic, but just like a traditional Jedi. Like when we are
mm,
first introduced to them, like if we're thinking like Phantom Menace and we see
yeah,
Qui-Gon and Obi, like they're just tan, they're tan
yeah,
and
yeah,
like brown boots. So
yeah, yeah.
I just thought the colors fit really well, but it also kind of had my own twist with like the armbands. And then
Hmm,
eventually, I got a belt from Amazon, but then I went to Galaxy's Edge and I actually got like a Jedi brown belt.
yeah,
Don't have the food capsules yet, but the belt is there.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it was really, really fun to just kind of enjoy the process because, like I said, a lot of the times I have no idea what I'm doing it until I'm
hmm,
actually doing it,
hmm,
and I'm like, maybe this will fit well together.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
that doesn't work, so let me take that
yeah,
out.
yeah,
So it
yeah,
is a trial and error process. It's not
yeah.
something super linear. So if you ever are looking get into cosplay, like to like literally anyone, just start. You can just start with like
Hmm,
a single piece and be like, what can I add to it to make it my own? I think the creative portion is, obviously the best portion because
yeah,
not everyone is going to have the same cosplay. Obviously, if you want to do screen accurate things, which I am trying to do at the moment, but when you get started, it's really your own thing. So just have fun with it.
yeah, definitely, yeah. And I think also just be I mean, like you said, just be creative with it, and I
Yeah.
mean, have fun, and because I think it's the as I've talked to, I mean, you and others, it just sounds like sometimes you find, like you mentioned, the tablecloth, like you find random things to use, and it's like, oh, okay, that wasn't what I was thinking about using, but that'll work. Like, and so just like making things work and putting things together, and like I think that is like a big piece of cosplay, from my understanding. So yeah, that's super fun. So you also mentioned, so you went to uh, you said you've gone to Galaxy's Edge recently,
Yeah.
fairly recently,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
went to a Comic Con. Was that in Orlando as well?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so you've
Yeah.
been
So
to so you've been there a
when I
couple times recently.
Yeah, yeah. When I went to the convention, I made a trip. The reason why I went to Galaxy's Edge was because I heard a rumor that the person who plays Cal, I don't know how to say his last name, Cameron Monahan.
Okay,
I don't know.
yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, yeah.
But I heard a rumor that he was going to be there, and so I went in
Oh,
my second sister cosplay, and I was just kind of like roaming around, hanging around, being like, maybe I'll see him, and it'd be really
yeah,
cool to take a photo. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, that was just kind of like a spur of the moment thing. Cause
Okay,
I was gonna go to like some parks because there's four parks for Disney
yeah,
World.
yeah, yeah,
Studios is where Galaxy's Edge is,
yeah.
and so I just ended up going there. I think I went there
Gotcha.
twice when I
Okay,
was at the convention. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. Awesome. Um, is that your first? Is that like the? Have you been to other conventions as well? Or was that kind of your first big one or bigger one or?
Yeah. So for convention wise, so I've gone to one when I was younger. I was like 14 or 13, and
Okay.
I didn't realize what I was attending at that
Okay.
age. I feel
Yeah.
like I should have been aware, but I was just like, this is okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I really did live under a rock when I was younger. My parents are just those type of parents. But we went to WonderCon in Anaheim at the Anaheim Convention Center because that's where
Okay.
I'm from originally. That's
Okay.
where I grew up. Um, and we just kind of I saw some people in like cosplays, but I thought they like worked for the convention. So I didn't know that it was a thing. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's cool, like that they have that. But my very first convention, like very aware of it, like going with the intention of
Yeah. Yeah.
cosplaying and like going to the booths, was about I think 2 years ago now or a year ago. I went to LA Comic Con.
Okay.
Um, so that was my very first convention. I went
Yeah.
there by
Yeah.
myself. I just kind of like trudged through. I went in my hair cosplay, which is my first cosplay that I've
Yeah.
ever done. Again, just pieced together from Amazon and like different online
Yeah.
shops.
Yeah.
Spray painted a couple of pieces for that. So yeah, like the conventions, it was definitely really daunting to go for the first time by yourself
Hmm.
because it's a lot. Like it is a
Yeah.
very large crowd, and like as my first cosplay, I'm like, like I see other people's cosplays and they're like so more advanced and like more
Yeah.
accurate. I'm just over
Yeah.
here with like, my Amazon pieces like
Yeah.
spray painted together. So, but I had a really good time. So this
Yeah.
the MegaCon convention that I went to is I would say the second convention that I've
Okay.
been to, but technically third. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. 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 Sounds good. So let's switch gears a little bit. This has been, I know this is kind of a hard switch on gears.
Okay.
But you guys can bear with us here. We are, one thing is, if you guys have been listening, I've been asking a lot of our guests, like, how they connect with Star Wars and spirituality or anything that comes with that, from different perspectives. And I just find it interesting because, I mean, a lot of us come from different backgrounds and all that. And so for UTR, like when you think of Star Wars, you think of spirituality and whatever that background is for you, or yeah, where you stand on that. Like how have you connected with that, or have you connected with that, and where do you see that in Star Wars?
Yeah, I mean, for one, I think a lot of literature and movies are pulled from like different types of
Mm,
spiritualities. Like in biblical terms, like if you think of the Chronicles of Narnia, like
yeah,
see a lot of biblical influence in that. So, I mean, I can definitely see where you can see it in Star Wars.
yeah, yeah.
For me personally, I don't think that I like connect to it
Hmm.
directly.
Yeah,
But I definitely see it, and I'm happy to discuss with people if
yeah,
they
yeah.
want to discuss it. Like I don't judge. But for me, it's more of like mindfulness and like it's practicing mindfulness and just like
Mm,
focusing on your mental health. Like
yeah,
I think that's why Qui-Gon is like one of my favorite characters is because
yeah.
he really puts what he feels and like his intuition first. Like he's very right
Mm,
before he dies with Darth Maul. He's literally meditating in between, like in
yeah,
those doors and the
yeah, yeah,
forget what you call it, with
yeah,
the
yeah.
uh, things are. But
Yeah, I know what
yeah,
you're
he's
talking about.
literally just sitting there meditating and just trying to be present. And one of the very first scenes I think that we see when they're entering like the negotiations with the Confederacy, Trade
Mm,
Confederation, he tells Obi-Wan to like be mindful, be present, like not at
mm,
the expense of the moment because we can get so lost in like dwelling on the past or being so anxious about the future.
mm.
And I have tons of issues with anxiety and things like that. So
Yeah,
I think it's just really important to focus on that. Of course, a lot easier said than done.
yeah.
But I think that for Jedi, when we think about Jedi, we think about like being mindful and
Mm.
it's like I connect it to mental health at least on my part.
Yeah, definitely. No, and I totally I appreciate that view of like, and Qui-Gon, like you said, he's like kind of that prime example of that. And I know we don't see Qui-Gon a lot in the grand scheme of things, but the little bit we see that he's very in tune with that. And no, I think that is a great reminder, of just like we need to be aware of our mental health, and I think the mindfulness that the Jedi have, that their meditation, their uh, things, they try to stay kind of in this balance of the
Yeah.
Force and all that comes with that. We have a fair understanding of like, hey, like I think a lot of that can stem from a or we can connect that to a mental health side of things. And so yeah, I totally get that. I totally appreciate like kind of that view of, hey, let's connect with that and let's make sure that's kind of a priority, and we can kind of look to Jedi or kind of their ideals, as we can see of like, hey, like we got to be mindful of our feelings and our thoughts and all that
Yeah.
comes with that.
Mhm.
I mean, we can go to a bad example of how it was dealt with Anakin. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little bit extreme, but we got to go to a bad example of that as well.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
um, Anakin wasn't always the most mindful of everything he
Yeah.
was going through, and so, like, definitely, I think that like a huge thing, and I always appreciate it, like this idea of like just being aware of our mental health. It's big. I know my wife's a social worker, and so like she gets that. I'm a youth pastor, so like I see kids that deal with this all the time, and so it's always. I always appreciate like people like, hey, like let's plug some mental health. Let's dive
Yeah.
into that. And I think with Star Wars, we can definitely see how that can be done well, how that can be done not so well,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
also just like the mindfulness behind it. So yeah, I appreciate that, and that kind of that view of thinking about mental health and Star Wars in some ways. I don't want to say I made that connection a whole lot before, but I can definitely see that, and I do appreciate that view.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And like I said, I think I always find it interesting the different um, when we talk about this or kind of that question, like the different perspectives people come from, and I think a lot of it comes from people's experience or past or what people have gone through, and so I appreciate that. So um, let's dive in here. I want to talk a little bit about Bad Batch. I know if I remember correctly, you have a strong love for Tech. He may no longer be with us. We don't really know what's going on there. Um, so at this point, when you guys are listening to this, the first few weeks of Bad Batch will come out, and we will not have watched it. We're actually recording on the day it comes out. The first three
Yeah.
episodes come out. So I have watched the first three episodes already this morning. I don't know
Oh,
if you have.
I have not.
Okay.
I have not.
Um, yeah. So but they're very good. So go watch them. But what predictions do you have with Bad Batch, or just kind of as like the whole season goes along? What are you hoping to see as we kind of dive into what they're saying is the last season of Bad Batch?
Yeah, I mean, I loved the first season. I loved it so much. I love seeing like the first episode of the first season is called Aftermath, and I loved seeing the
Mm,
aftermath of Order 66 and how
mm,
that impacted, the clones. Like I never thought like when I was watching the movies, I never thought to think like what happened to them after Order 66
mm,
because then we get the stormtroopers and they're not the
yeah,
clones. So it's like
yeah,
what happened to them in the meantime. So I
yeah.
think this was really insightful and just a fun way to explore how that came
Mm,
about. Um, and I was rewatching the second season recently, and not only do we get to explore the clones, but we get to explore like the rest of the galaxy, the rest of civilization, and like how they're impacted and
mm,
kind of the same struggles that they're facing, like the clones. And the clones kind of have this like moral dilemma, like do we step in, do we help out, do we do something about what's happening,
mm,
or do we
yeah,
just follow orders, do we just go along with what's happening?
yeah.
So I thought that that kind of theme was really, really nice to see and how it's playing out so far. I love Hunter and I love Tech, and I'm very sad that Tech is not here at the moment. I have my suspicions that he is still alive. um, and also seeing how Crosshair's story unfolds. But there's so much that can be done with Bad Batch and that has already been introduced that at like some point I'm just like I have no idea. I have no predictions as to what's
Mm,
gonna
yeah,
happen
yeah,
because we have Omega and she has her own like unique situation. She's her own unique clone and like what she means. And
yeah,
then we get introduced to her sister and then we have, Batch 99 and it's like
yeah,
where do we go from here? And then also the string that Palpatine is pulling with the clones and
yeah.
that's a whole other thing to delve into. So I'm very, very curious to see how it's going to unfold. I do not think that they are going to survive, like any of them. That is a
Yeah,
very high prediction for me, and I am mentally preparing myself for that
yeah,
with
yeah.
any
I
strong
think
attachments with them.
yes. What I see the other day, somebody was saying that it'll be like the end of Rogue One. Like it'll be Rogue One ending where like that. Yeah. So which I definitely think is definitely the case. I mean, we know like the only character we know of. I mean, obviously like Rex, like he survives whatever happens. Even though I mean Rex is involved with the Bad Batch, but like the Bad Batch character specifically, like I don't know what happened. Like it'll be interesting to see, and I think it'd also be like, what are if they do survive? Like what do they do with them? Or like
Mhm.
where's that go? Because
Yeah,
then also,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah. So I also I mean like you mentioned like I love the fact that like they have dived into like what are happening with the clones, kind of what's this transition between clone troopers and stormtroopers. Because like even in the movies, like we just kind of have this like um, very pointed view of like, hey, here's we're blowing up the Death Star, we're doing all this, and the movies are great, but they don't dive in kind of to what else is going on in the galaxy.
yeah,
And I do appreciate this. They kind of given us a wider view of like what's happening with the clones during this time, what's happening to um, just different worlds that they're encountering and going through. And I mean, I even just think of like, oh, what is the boss that they're working for,
Sid,
and see what?
Sid, the
Yeah,
green
Sid.
person. Yeah,
Yeah,
Sid.
Sid. Like, I mean, just even like somebody like Sid, like what they're trying to figure out with the Empire and like all like, because I mean, just everything's changing, and so I just find that all that kind of storyline they go into, I find interesting as well. Yeah, yeah, and I would agree. I'd be surprised if they all survive, but I guess we don't know. Um, and then I guess also like, do we know specifically what Omega like? Why was Omega created? What was her purpose? Do we even know that for sure yet?
No, I feel like it's been very vague. Like, we know that it's important. We know that there was a purpose behind it, why she was, because she's older than all of them, but
Yeah,
I forget what happened, like, to delay her or her growth. But yeah, it's not very clear, so I'm really interested to see why they created her and why she
yeah,
has a sister.
yeah,
Because we know, what happened with Bad Batch 99, but not with Omega or literally
yeah,
anything else regarding
yeah,
her
yeah,
creation. So I'm very just like, I have no predictions. I have nothing to go off of. There is no context for me. I don't know if
yeah,
other people are able to, or maybe there's like subtle hints that I'm missing or details that I'm missing, but I don't know.
yeah. I know. And the other thing too, and me, I don't know if I was like, I don't know if I was like not paying attention, but honestly, like it also like I feel like they released like they announced the date of Bad Batch release, and then like not very long before they actually come out. Like I feel like before, like we'll know like months in advance, and then like they didn't like we knew Bad Batch might be coming out, but we didn't really know when until I don't know December. Like,
Mhm.
and so I just feel like that was also a little bit different, like release cadence for Disney. Like it was just kind of like, oh, it's here, okay, let's do it, like awesome. But like I also like
Yeah.
or, like I remember like Ahsoka. I feel like we knew like we knew at Celebration last year, and we still had 5 months before it came out. Um, and so I also find, I mean, just even that release cadence, I find interesting as well. That like it just seemed to be here, and so like I said, I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but I think with that, like I feel like I haven't gotten in to figure out like where, like you said, where it's going or like clues to things, and that sort of thing as well either. So I think that'll be interesting. Do you think there'll be any surprise characters this season? Like characters that we haven't seen or like we've seen in other places that we're like, oh, like where are you come? Like why are you here? Like any surprise characters? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, with Bad Batch and Filoni and just like how open the universe is,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that that's a bad prediction that we'll
Yeah,
see any like, old characters just like
yeah,
randomly appear. I did see a recent trailer that they released, and we see cadet clones, and that was
Mm,
really really cool to
yeah.
see. And it's like, like what else will we be able to see? What else is gonna surprise us? Cody, Commander Cody. So when I was rewatching season
Mm,
2, we see that he goes rogue, like he disappears, and I
yeah.
really want to know what happened to him. Unless
Yeah.
I'm not remembering something from season 2, but I don't think that we find out where he goes or what happens to him, and I'm really curious to see if they ever find out or if they run into him again. So that's another, not like a surprise character, but like I would like to have a little bit more information on. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree, and I think because we definitely see this kind of start with Cody of like, because he even questions. He's like, "Do we like we gotta?" I feel like I remember this scene because it's like they're in front of the Imperial place on
yeah,
Coruscant, and they're in
the
front of that wall that's like yellow and has
Mhm.
all the names on
Yeah,
it and things. That, like,
yeah,
just even the like he's like, we gotta live with the decisions we make, or like
yeah,
and things like that. Like, and he's talking to Crosshair at the time, and so yeah, I definitely think I hope they follow up with that. Um, this may be out there, but one thing I would love to see, I don't know if we'll, I mean, I don't know if Cody will survive. I feel like he's kind of in that boat where with the rest of the Bad Batch where he might not. Um, one thing I would love to see, and I don't know if they would do this, is if they did some sort of a Cody and Kenobi reunion. Um,
ooh, yeah,
like
yeah,
go to
yeah,
Tatooine and they find Kenobi. That might be an out there type of thing, but
yeah.
I just think that'd be pretty cool. Just knowing that they were like that was Kenobi was his general and like kind
Yeah.
of finding that out. Um, I also like, and I don't know if they delve into this either. Is like the clones don't really know what happened to Anakin and any of that either. So I'd also be intrigued. Like, do the clones ever really figure out like what happened? Especially I'm thinking like Rex and some of
Yeah,
them that
yeah,
worked
yeah,
with Anakin. Like, do they ever figure out actually what Anakin becomes?
yeah. What if Vader has an appearance in this next
Yeah,
season?
yeah,
He is the cause, I don't know, of their
yeah,
death. Like that would be really depressing, but also poetic.
yeah. It'd be really interesting to see
Because
how all that played out.
in the last season, in season 7, Anakin leads the Bad Batch and his 501st. They have the
Yeah,
very first couple of episodes are him in the Bad Batch, and
because
um,
that's when they
so
find
yeah,
Echo. Yeah,
Echo. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. And so, like you said, like I just feel like there's no like there's so many ways they could go with it and loose ends. And I think also like I didn't think because I mean, the end of season 2, and I mean, Um, even these first couple episodes, like that I watched this one, I don't think this is really a spoiler, but like there's such a focus on the cloning side of things and what they're doing with all that, and so it's also like, does this end up having some sort of a connection to post episode 6?
Hmm.
Like, I mean, I even think of like you get into the Dark Troopers, you get into the sequels. Like, I mean, do we even get some sort of a connection that's like years down the road? Because we always know, like, I mean, I think there's different spots in books and things where like it mentions cloning things that projects that Emperor Palpatine's working on, but we never get into this much detail. And so I'd also like be interested in see what all they're doing, if we get into any more of that, like I guess detail that you'd think of when it when it comes to like cloning and all that.
Yeah, in the Mandalorian, in the last couple of seasons, we see a little bit of mention and a little bit of storyline regarding the
Hmm.
clones too.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I don't
yeah,
know. It'd just be interesting to see how all they're connecting this,
yeah,
and if
exactly.
it is all connected. I mean, I don't know. It seems like it definitely could be. And with Filoni and seemingly working on everything.
Yeah.
That I mean, it definitely seems. I mean, when you think of like if we're good, like, I mean, it seems like there's probably going to be a Ahsoka season 2. There's going to be, um, I mean, they talked about this Mando verse movie that's coming out, and so I'll just be intrigued to see like what all comes of that, and what all they're doing, because it just seems like there's definitely could be connections within all that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with Bad Batch because the first half of season 2 I really love. The second half is like okay, and then the last episode, of course, is the last episode. It
Yeah,
was really good. So I'm really excited because this is the last season, so I feel like they have to like not have to pack a lot into it, but there will be just like by the nature of things, a lot will be packed into it. So I'm
yeah,
excited.
yeah. And you kind of like they had to tie things together as well. Um,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
so at least I hope they do.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
at least I'm hoping they do. Yeah, definitely. Outside of Bad Batch, I know I'm trying to think like we got I think Acolyte probably this year. I know they mentioned
The
Skeleton
Ghost
Crew,
or still a not Ghost Crew. Yeah, still
Skeleton Crew. Like I don't from the top of my head, I can't think of anything else that's coming out this year. Like, are you? How do you feel about those? Are you excited about those? Are you unsure about those? Somewhere in the middle.
for the Acolyte, I feel like they're like changing the story of it constantly. I don't know, just based off of what like people are saying.
Mm,
Like at first I was really, really intrigued with it and I really was anticipating it, but now I'm just like I don't know how well this is gonna go. I love Jude Law, so
yeah, yeah,
I really want to see Skeleton Crew because of him.
yeah,
But I love more Star Wars. Obviously, I want quality over quantity. So
yeah,
like the rate that
yeah,
they're producing stuff, I would much rather them wait and make sure that it's of quality. But
yeah.
I love to see the universe regardless in action.
Hmm.
Um, so I am excited for Skeleton Crew because of I think it's like an interesting story for Skeleton Crew. And then of course the actor and what he be able to contribute to the Star Wars
Yeah,
universe.
yeah,
And then for the Mandalorian and Grogu, I enjoy it. But the last season was just kind of like okay to me.
yeah,
Um, and so I don't know how I feel about the movie because also I kind of felt like not a lot of effort went into the title because it's just the Mandalorian and Grogu.
yeah,
Um, so and that's supposed to be releasing and I think at the same time as season 2 Ahsoka and Filoni's going to be working on both of them. I'm fairly certain. So I'm just curious to see what he's going to do with the limited amount of time that he has, I think,
yeah,
to put
yeah.
input and creativity in that. So I mean I'm excited for it, but I'm also hesitant just because of how it's all being produced so quickly.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I do feel like it'll be interesting. Yeah, like I would agree. I feel like season three of Mandalorian, like it was good. There was some very intriguing parts, but there
Yeah,
was also some parts where I'm like, I don't know about that. So, or it was just like, I don't know. At times it seemed slow. I think too. At least to me,
yeah.
it did. And so I'll just be intrigued to see what all
Oh,
they do with it.
speaking of shows, I don't know if you're a fan of Andor, but
Mm.
Andor season 2 just wrapped up,
Yeah.
and I'm really excited for that.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. I think Andor season two will be fantastic. Season one was fantastic.
I
So,
love season 1.
um, and I think that's the other thing. Like we talked about Bad Batch and just seeing some different things in the Star Wars universe. Like that's one thing I think Andor is also doing, and even to a different capacity with live action, which I think is super cool as well. And I'm excited to see what Andor season two has in store. And so yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, season one was amazing. So I hope season two lives up to that.
It was
Um,
definitely rough in the beginning. I had a hard time getting through it for the first
yeah,
half, but once it picked up, I was like, "Ooh, this is really good."
yeah. There was a lot of setup, but once it was set up, it was like, wow, this was really well done.
Yeah.
And so I hope they keep that momentum going. Um, yeah, because I would agree. I just feel like some of the things I don't know if they've rushed stuff or
Mhm.
what. Like I was super excited when they announced more Star Wars movies, but like also it's like yeah, you want it to be well done, not just
Yeah.
rush it out. And so I hope they take the time to do it well, or just even bring in the people to make it happen well, and not
Yeah.
just. I mean, I love that Filoni does a great job, but I also like if we need more people, bring more people in and get it done, do it well, and so yeah, I'll be intrigued to see what all they do. So awesome. Any other thoughts on future Star Wars stuff before we close out here today?
No, I mean there's a lot I feel like that's happening.
Yeah,
But no, just at the same thing, just making sure that it's quality and it's a lot of fun to
yeah,
have predictions and to like have stuff to look forward to
yeah.
because there was a very long period where we didn't have much
Um,
of new Star Wars.
anything, yeah,
Now, yeah, and now we're getting it. So,
yeah,
it's definitely a weird time to live in because we didn't
yeah,
have a lot. If you were in that time period, because there's new Star Wars fans every day, right? Like they get into it,
yeah.
they haven't seen like the stuff, so it's like all there for them now. But if you've been like a really long-term fan since you were like 5, 6 years old, then there's that like weird time period. So I think that's
Hmm.
really funny and like ironic just to think about.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
definitely.
for Andor season two, what I'm looking for that because I saw some like behind the scenes footage. I saw they went back to Naboo, and I think that'll be really fun to explore. So just like putting
Ooh,
it out there to get people a little bit more excited about season two.
they go
They
to
might be going for
Naboo.
Naboo.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Oh man, no, you just piqued my interest definitely. Especially when you think about Palpatine and
hmm
how, I mean,
Story. Yeah.
yeah, there's a
Story.
lot. Yeah, there's a lot that can come out of that. That's
Exactly.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I think I gotta ask you this. So we had Carl Weathers pass away. Do you think
Yeah.
they will recast? I mean, which is sad. I loved his character. I think Grief was a
Yeah.
great character.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll recast, or because there's definitely more where he could be involved?
Um, I don't know. I feel like so this also goes hand in hand with Balin too. I loved Balin and Shin.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he passed away, and it's so sad to see these like amazing actors and such great characters like
Hmm.
away and not no longer be there. But I think for like at Balin at least, they're gonna have to like
Yeah, there's so much storyline left.
yeah. With
Yeah,
Carl, I mean, I feel like yeah, he was a really good character, but I feel like out of respect, I personally wouldn't.
yeah,
I would just like kind of insert somewhere what ended up happening to him. But I mean, maybe they will just
yeah,
to like continue on with the storyline. But I don't feel like there was much more to do there. I think he
yeah,
was more of a supporting character. Not that he wasn't a great character, but it was more of a supporting character with not much of like a storyline there. So
yeah,
I'm not sure. Yeah.
yeah. No, I would agree with that. I think you could bring him back, but I feel like you also don't have to necessarily either. He's
Yeah.
kind of it's like if he would have passed away like after season one of Mando, I feel like that would have been a lot harder to like because at that point he seemed like a very vital character to whatever everything that was going on. Where now
Yeah.
he, like you said, he's playing that supporting role. So yeah, definitely. So all right, well we'll see. I'm excited. Like I said, I mean, like you said, we're just getting Star Wars content, which is awesome. And I know I know you're around my age, which means you grew up with the prequels or at
Yeah.
the tail end of the prequels, and so the fact that we're getting like new Star Wars for us that haven't hardly had new Star Wars in our lifetime, it's just fun and
Exactly. Yeah.
exciting. So I love that as well. So, alrighty, well, enjoy Bad Batch. Go watch it. I will say the first three episodes are already intriguing from what I've seen,
Mhm.
and it'll be a good season, I think. So, thanks TR for coming on and chatting Star Wars, and hopefully we can have you back here sooner than later sometime.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, thanks. Have a good one.
Thank you.